And welcome to today's live chat from Gdansk in Poland. And here it's raining, and so you might actually hear the rain if the rain gets too loud, then I'm going to have to stop because the rain can affect the sound quality. It's a live chat, so if you want to ask anything, then you can do so. And anyway, right. So, as I try doing a live chat, I usually tend to make this either about a video I've just published or posted, I should say, or it's about current affairs. And a couple of days ago, Putin said something quite curious. He said that it looks as though Poland, or words to this effect, that Poland was planning an invasion of Belarus. And he did this because of the following: the Wagner Group, the mercenaries who now are located in Belarus because of this alleged coup. They tried march on Moscow, and with them now being based in western Belarus, there is clearly a certain level of danger to Poland. Maybe they might try infiltration or something like this. I don't think that's very likely, but for obvious reasons, the Polish government has strengthened its border. It sent troops to the area, probably only talking here of tens rather than anything else. I think. I don't know. I'm not privy to this information, and and this, of course, is used as a sort of a propaganda thing by Lukashenko and by Putin. Why are they saying this? I don't know. I don't know who their audience is. I think really they're possibly thinking more of their internal audiences. As far as Russia's concerned, it's got to use something about pretending that everybody is against us, sort of thing. So that is how the system works as far as they're concerned. Everybody hates us. We're all by ourselves. This is used by communists and fascists all the time and has been done. We're alone. Our people. We must stick together. So that's the point of doing something like that. The fact that Putin's already got a war with Ukraine on his hands. I think what he's doing, though, it's his brinkmanship. He doesn't want to push. He doesn't think there's any harm in pushing other countries because they know they're not going to do anything to attack him anyway. The Polish border with Belarus was quite curious because it's the former border of the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union, of course, 35 years ago, and its vassal states, its friendly, peace-loving population of the People's Republic of Poland. And this friendship was so deep and so intense that on that side of the border, on the Soviet side, there was plowed fields, barbed wire fences, and these barbed wire fences, as far as Belarus is concerned, you can go to the border, for example, a border on the Bug River of Wodava, amongst many other places, and you can see for yourself the barbed wire fences were put up in Soviet times, and they're still there now. That's on the Bug River. It doesn't follow the Bug River all the time because the Bug River quite quickly goes inside Poland. So it's Poland on the western bank, eastern bank, as well as the western. But on the Belarusian side, whereas they do have the barbed wire and all the rest of it, on the Polish side there wasn't. And because of the refugee crisis, which was deliberately an act of incredible cruelty, I would say, whereby the Belarusian government arranged for people coming from, above all, places like Iraq or from Africa, come to Belarus and then ship them immediately to the border, trying to push them over the border. I don't know how many people died as a result of this provocation, but it's really quite horrific that they can actually have such little regard for human life as to do something like this. If people can go to Belarus and it's such a great place to be, then they can stay there, of course. It's quite clear that the Western European or European Union couldn't take these people in coming in like that. The thing that I do want to talk about is, above all, is Putin. When he says that he wants to remind Poland about how nice the Soviet Union was to Poland in the Second World War. Indeed, a large part of Poland was Germany, and it's thanks to Stalin's generosity that this is now part of Poland. Part of what was Germany is now Poland, and it's thanks to Stalin's generosity that it's now Poland. Indeed, where I am sitting right now was part of Germany 110 years ago. So, right, well, let's have a look at this generosity. On the 23rd of August, 1939, Molotov and Ribbentrop got together in Moscow, Molotov being the Soviet foreign minister and Ribbentrop being the Nazi foreign minister. They got together, they signed a pact of friendship. And so, first of all, this pact of the 23rd of August 1939 led to the invasion of Poland and the starting of the Second World War. 50 million people were killed directly as a result of the Second World War. Damage, which even from where I'm sitting right now, I can walk 500 meters and see damage which was still visible all this time later. From that, and there's places where there's far greater damage than that. We've got the tens of millions of people injured, lives ruined, etc., because of this war, and the conflicts that that war caused are still visible today. So that's the Second World War. 5 weeks after the Ribbentrop-Molotov agreement was signed a pact of mutual assistance and friendship, which had all sorts of things from economic treaties to the exchange of intelligence information, allowing the Soviets access to get the Gestapo and vice versa, so that they could hunt down the Polish resistance together. Now, one of the things that happened as a result of this was massive Polish deportations. In the part of the Poland that was occupied by the Soviet Union, that was 51.5%. It wasn't, in fact, it was even greater than that. Only in the later agreement in September 1939, the Soviets said, we'll give you a bit of our bit of Poland back for yourselves, and around the Lublin area, and we want to have Lithuania for ourselves. So the Nazis kindly gave the Soviets Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia, which didn't belong to them anyway, and in exchange for this, and Nazi Germany got part of Poland. So there is approximately 13.1 million people in the Soviet-occupied part of Poland, making 51.5% of the territory, and in the Nazi German-occupied part, approximately 23 million, something like that. There were more people here because on the western side there were more people actually living, and so it's more highly developed than the eastern part as it was then. Now, next one thing they did was 4 great deportations of people. How many people were in these deportations, we don't know. The lowest number, which is something which now the Institute of National Remembrance sort of has put out, is 700,000 people. That, if that is correct, it represents what, 6% of the entire population deported. And when they were deported, it wasn't like they were taken from their houses and then sort of given a nice house with a garden somewhere else. They were often just deported and dumped somewhere. They were dumped in the middle of nowhere. The really unlucky ones got the far north or Siberia. There were people who were taken to places like Kazakhstan or what is today Uzbekistan, where the conditions may have been a bit easier and it may have been a bit easier for them to live. But what happened with the deportations? They would often turn up, soldiers in the dead of night, tell people that they had sometimes had as long as half an hour to pack, and stuck onto a train somewhere, collected somewhere together, had to walk to the railway station, stuck on the train, put in a sealed train that might take 15 days or so to get where it's going, then get out in the middle of nowhere. And the result is, now I do appreciate that in those days people were harder than they are today. So for us today, we probably die much quicker because we're not used to such hard things as they were then. But all the same, these deportations, people were dumped in the middle of nowhere. Now, there are places, for example, in the Kolyma, noted for where the mines are, in northern Russia, of 7,000 people deported there, 171 survived. And there's another place called Chutka, which is in the region of Kolyma, and there 3,000 people deported there. Similar situation, dumped off in the middle of nowhere. None of them survived at all. Zero. And that is what obviously Poles need to thank the Soviets for, as Putin actually puts it. Now, during the war, oh no, sorry, just one or two other points I need to make about this. The deportations, as I said, came in four areas. Now, it's for Jewish people who actually lived in Poland. Now, the in the Soviet zone, there were approximately 336,000 refugees that came from the zone that was to be occupied by Nazi Germany, of whom approximately 190,000 were Jewish. And the number one reason for survival for Jews, Polish Jews in the Second World War, is because they were deported. And there are places, for example, such as in Białystok, where 2/3 of those who were deported from Białystok were Jewish. So that doesn't mean to say that it was easy. Sorry, it was easier, if you like. But the losses amongst everybody were enormous. To give one example of one person, Adam Cherniakov, who was the person in charge in the Warsaw Ghetto, it'll be the anniversary of his death in 2 days' time. He committed suicide, but only a week before he died, he didn't actually know this, but his son, who had been deported inside the Soviet Union, he died. I can't remember if it was disease or of starvation, but he died in the Soviet. So the people who could have families who were split in both areas. Now, the Soviet Union took approximately 750,000 prisoners during the war and the short war, the September campaign. And some of them were released immediately, it needs to be pointed out. However, officers ended up in all sorts of trouble. In the Katyn massacres, we're looking around 22,000 officers who were murdered by the Soviets. Not only that, they committed a number of atrocities. There was a battle in a place called Shatsk on the 27th of September 1939. All the prisoners they took, they murdered. There was a mental home in Zamość, which was being used as a military hospital. They just killed everybody. And there's a long trail of atrocities committed by the Soviet Union. Not only that, though, in the war against the Nazi Germany, in the offensive which took place in January 1945, which took from the Vistula to the Oder River, we can't say, but approximately 100,000 Polish women were the victims of sexual assault and rape by the Red Army. None of whom were ever punished for doing this. There was the same sort of thing as we see today in Ukraine, the massive robberies which were taking place in Poland. Not only in Germany, but in Poland. The Soviet troops had an allowance of how much they could send back each month of stolen property. This is the only army that I know of ever. I'm sure it has happened in other armies, but it was officially allowed to send back looted property. So there's another thing that the Poles need to be grateful for. Now, what about the amount of people who actually died as a result of the Soviet Union? We don't know. We can't say. A number of figures have been produced, but I mean it is somewhat difficult to actually say. But we are talking here of tens of thousands of victims of the Soviet. I think the Institute of National Remembrance has put around 150,000 people were victims of the Soviet Union and its war against Poland. Let's not forget, it was allied to Nazi Germany. Let's not forget that at all. Now, Putin in 2009 sent a letter to Gazeta Wyborcza, in which he said that it was a dreadful mistake for the Soviet Union to have this alliance with Nazi Germany, which started World War II. That was his opinion then. Of course, everybody can change their minds. There's nothing wrong with changing your mind. We all change our minds. And of course, Putin has changed his mind to make it either A, because he's living in a bubble where people are feeding him all sorts of nonsense, or B, because of it suits his current stand, and what he's trying to do, he's trying to create division amongst allies. In short, I'd have to say, in my opinion, Poland has nothing to thank the Soviet Union for whatsoever. As a result of World War II, approximately 5.7 million people, citizens of Poland, were killed. Admittedly, most of them by Nazi Germany. But if it had not been for that alliance with the Soviet Union, then Nazi Germany probably wouldn't have attacked in the first place. That's the way I see it. Right, good. Sorry, I'll have a look. Sorry, I didn't answer any of the comments there. And so I was sort of reading the comments, and it sort of put me off when my train of thought. I'm doing that. I've got no notes or anything like that in front of me. Anyway, so Dan says, why are we dripping weapons into Ukraine? Give them everything they need to win instead of just enough to not lose. Very frustrating. Russia or US are going back to Vietnam War, giving jets. Yes, this is a really good point. We should. I do appreciate that there's a limit to the transport capacity, and this, for example, if you ever have a look at the situation in North Africa in World War II, and why was Rommel starved of supplies? Well, in fact, I think the supplies were there going flat out, but they didn't have the port capacity to actually use to give him more supplies. Anyway, as far as today's concerned, I utterly agree with this. It is absolutely, people are now dying because of the lack of supplies. Now we've given the Kremlin Nazis have had about 7-8 months to prepare in-depth defenses, which are clearly very difficult to actually get through with these minefields and all the rest of it. I mean, I did a video in March of last year when I was saying that they need to get these jets now. It's no point in sending them actually later. So yeah, I utterly agree. Why is this happening? I think it's a political decision, though. There was something I saw on German television said, well, if we give these weapons, then we'll have nothing ourselves. Now, when I was in the army, admittedly, it was some time ago, the German army was a bit of a joke at the time. I think the German army has improved since then, but all the same, I do appreciate that they may be saying, well, we won't have to defend ourselves. But this argument is completely fallacious. Who's likely to attack us? I mean, I can't see Switzerland or France attacking Germany. So the only potential enemy is Russia. So why, if the Ukrainian people are dying for us, because let's face it, they won't. Putin won't stop there. That is the utter and clear evidence of history. Fascist dictators don't stop. They keep marching. So it's this. We either stop Putin in Ukraine or we can stop him in Newcastle upon Tyne. And I'd rather it was done in Ukraine, in my opinion. Sorry, next thing. Anyway, right. So if Dan writes, if Poland were attacked, then yeah, they get crushed. I utterly believe this is the case. Is that Putin can't look for more enemies. I think he's bitten off more than he could chew, trying it out on Ukraine. Why didn't he have a crack at an easier target, such as Finland, such as they did in 1939, and which Molotov, incidentally, wanted to do again in 1940? Why didn't they do that? Finland wasn't in NATO. It's lost its chance. It could have had another crack. Let's not forget as well that Russia occupies a large amount of Finnish territory, which was taken from Finland during the Winter War and the continuation wars. Will Russia be giving this territory back? I very much doubt it, but I think that's something that should be considered. Why didn't Putin have a crack at an easier target, such as maybe Kazakhstan? Kazakh is a huge country, it's very big, but the government in Kazakhstan is effectively a client anyway of Putin's. Have another crack at Georgia? Well, I think also again, I mean the Georgian government is somewhat now pro-Putin, so I think that was that, having a go at Ukraine. He thought it was weak, and that's why he had a go at it. And let's face it, the thing is this: if they hadn't taken Crimea so easily, if the United States and the United Kingdom, which had guaranteed Ukraine's borders, hadn't been so weak in 2014, then we wouldn't be in this mess now. That is a very clear lesson from history. The Munich Accords, allowing Hitler to take Austria, allowing Hitler to take Lithuania, all of this step by step. Appeasement does not work. Anyway, good. Right, hello Colin, hello Annie, and Jessica says NATO needs to stop Ukraine along, give them a solid timetable for joining. Right. Actually, I don't entirely agree with this one. The alternative argument here is that if Ukraine got a timetable, well, first of all, if it said right on the next Friday at 3:15, Ukraine can join. Well, what then if the war is still on? Then that then becomes a war with NATO. So the thing is, NATO can't expand itself to include a country which is already at war, and I can understand that very well. I also think there's certain criteria which have to be met. But having said that, I do understand this is a special situation. It's a bit like, for example, South Korea would be a sort of a special situation as well. It's not like, say, for example, if taking in Ireland or something, which isn't actually threatened by anybody. So I do appreciate that. It would, of course, give a bit of a boost, but if Russia could deliberately, if they know when Ukraine will join NATO, if they've got the date, then they can deliberately seek to continue the war. And what I believe that Putin might just want a frozen conflict, that would suit his means. A frozen conflict like there is on the Korean Peninsula, for example, or like there is between Israel and Syria, that would suit him. But anyway, that's just my opinion. Someone else thinks any different. Sorry. Do I think that Putin would want to take over Kaliningrad? Well, as far as I'm aware, he has already done so. In fact, that was done in 1945. Kaliningrad is part of Russia. It's not so far from where I'm sitting, in fact, right now. And so it's so generous, right? So gracious of Stalin to leave most Poles alive. It was very kind of him, really, if you think about it. And so hello to Columbus, Ohio. Part of Ukraine was part of Poland, as you know, Alan. Right, yeah. Now, in 1939, there was the attack of the Soviet Union attacked Poland. Now, the population of this area was occupied by the Soviet Union. 38% was Polish people speaking at home. 37% was Ukrainian. And of the people who were deported, now I've given a figure of between 700,000. Roger Morehouse, in his book, what's it in English? The Devil's Pact. Brilliant book. I've read it 4 times. I can't remember the title of it. Sorry, I was translating the title of it. He says there's 1.5 million. Normal number which is given is 1.2 million. Now, approximately 2/3 of the people who were very approximately, of the people who were deported inside the Soviet Union came from the areas which are today Ukraine. And the remainder came from part which was Belarus or Lithuania, or those parts of Poland which were given back to Poland. Of course, Stalin occupied the entire country, so it is rather difficult to say he occupied he gave back. But for example, the area around Białystok, which was occupied by the Soviet Union and incorporated into the Belarusian Soviet Socialist Republic, was returned to Poland. And the area around Suwałki, which was occupied by the Third Reich in 1939 and annexed to East Prussia, was also returned to Poland. So it needs also to be pointed out that when I'm talking of deportations, I'm talking of Polish citizens. And whereas the overwhelming bulk of those people who were deported were either Polish or Polish Catholic or Polish ethnicity and Jewish, there were also people of Ukrainian and Belarusian origin also were deported. It wasn't entirely Polish speakers who were deported. Anyway, sorry. Yeah. So Dan says we're still living in a world affected directly by World War II. Absolutely. I mean, the problems in the Middle East are directly related to the Holocaust. Directly. I used to use that as one of many examples. And until this is actually accepted by likes of Putin, then problems will continue to go on. Now, next thing is, which I didn't say too much of, was what happened after World War II and the Stalinist occupation. Now, it's not known how many people ended up being murdered by the communists in Poland, or even we could even talk of the standard of living. I was here in the 1980s. I saw what it was like myself, and what the regime then did. But the fact of the matter is, if in 1980s, where you had this situation where Poland was almost on the brink of starvation in 1981, and maybe I've exaggerated a little bit, but the amount of food that was available wasn't a great deal, and this was done deliberately to punish people for having the solidarity. But the Poland, one of the largest sugar producing countries in the world, and sugar was actually rationed, and it was rationed from 1979. It was even rationed before Solidarity. But yeah, the rationing system. Okay, if there's a rationing system, it normally means you can get things. Normally, it does mean that. It means there's not a lot of it, but at least it's shared out. It wasn't necessarily the case that you could actually even get things because of it. So that, I think, it needs to be also taken into account. But during the Stalinist period, the political repression was very strong, and that also is something which I think needs to be considered. Another thing I would say is this: is that whereas the Stalin very kindly and generously gave a huge lump of Germany to Poland, well, it's not entirely true that Stalin did it, because it was an agreement with the Western Allies as well. But that apart, the conditions in which people who were thrown out of their property homes in places like Vilnius and Lviv and in Tarnopol and places like that, and then they had to come here. Also, again, it could have been in the dead of winter. It could have been on foot. It could have been in cattle wagons where there was no food, no toilets, no nothing, and which were open. It was in pretty bad conditions. Of course, also the Germans who were expelled, they had similar conditions. Again, I mean, all thanks to Stalin and Hitler, the two of them together. Anyway, right, so the Colin writes, U.S. Army Postal Service were equally a set of fences in the occupied territories in Germany. Yeah, okay. And right. And do I think that Putin will lose power? Look, everybody loses power. There was a British politician, I've got a feeling it might have been Macmillan, and he said every political career ends in tears. And I think that things with Putin's career, it's going to take a lot of tears of a lot of people to get rid of him. He can't stay in power forever, ever. He's either going to die or he's going to leave office. The problem is this: he's just digging himself deeper and deeper into a hole. And he could have resigned and gone into retirement. He has this wonderful palace built at a cost of $2 billion. Dollars or euros, I can't remember, 2 billion, what it is now. That's a huge amount of cash. He could be sitting there, sunning himself there right now. In fact, it's night there, so he wouldn't be sunning himself. But he could have been in the big cinema he's got there. He could have been using the gym there. He could have been using the swimming pool. He could have been having a good time. Now, this, like Hitler as well, if he hadn't have done what he did, he could have gone up that mountain of his and done what he really liked doing, which was nothing. And I'm not suggesting that Putin's as lazy as Hitler was, but in fact, I don't know. But this is the problem. He's now digging. He's going to be tried. He's going to this. Of course, I mean, Putin had committed lots of murders beforehand, before this happened. I just think that this will be harder for him to get out of it. I mean, he's not. So he's really just putting himself in a worse and worse and worse situation. I believe he'll be removed in a palace coup. The thing is this: Putin worked in a way. It's a bit like a feudal system. You've got these people around him, and the people who sort of give him homage, and in return he gives them protection. And so he gives them protection so they can earn money, and often in a dubious manner, and they give him the homage in the form of cash. So I mean, the feudal system worked very well for hundreds of years, and it sort of works in many other cases. I mean, this is Russia. It is the best example that I can think of. Now, the thing is this, though: if the people around him can't earn the cash, they're going to start thinking, what do we need him for? When Tsar Nicholas II was gotten rid of in 1918, he was on a train, and 1917, sorry. The train was being shunted around from one place to the other, ended up in Pskov. He wanted to get back to the capital in Leningrad, Petersburg, as it was called then, St. Petersburg, or Petrograd, I should say. But he couldn't do it. He couldn't get back, and in the generals who came in, and they suggested he had to resign. He had to. They were more interested in the institution of the monarchy. They knew that he could no longer do the job, and I suspect it might something along those lines. Actually, Margaret Thatcher went out in a similar manner as well. Right. So anyway, hello, Cleo. In regard to giving all of one's weapons away, Nye Bevan said that the UK could not go naked to the negotiating table. Yes, well, I do appreciate that, but the thing is, the UK isn't negotiating here, and the ones that are negotiating it's Ukraine, and I believe I cannot see the sense of weapons sort of sitting around doing nothing. Oh, sorry, in storage. I mean, there's a reason why they're in storage. They're in storage so they can be used. But the idea that we need to keep something back to defend ourselves, well, yeah, maybe it's fair enough keeping something back, but I mean, not everything. And particularly as the thing is this, had I'll give this as a very good example, is that in refusing to defend Czechoslovakia in 1938 and allowing Hitler to take the entire country, he took the resources of that country at the same time. And in part those resources were one of the most modern and in fact the second largest ammunition plant in, I think, in the world even at the time, in Pilsen. And so therefore we gift him all these things. Now if Putin is gifted the Ukrainian arms industry, then he decides he's going to attack Poland or Romania, as he did or as Stalin did in 1939, 1940, then it's totally illogical to my way of thinking. Anyway, Cleo says freedom finds a way, and hello from Yavori. Yes, hello, David. And right. Belarus and Ukraine were part of Poland, Moldova and Ukraine were part of Romania. He thought it was a bad idea for borders. Yeah, it needs to be pointed out, of course, that Belarus, approximately about 40% of the current borders of Belarus were in Poland. Part of Lithuania was as well, something like 15%. What is today Lithuania. In the case of Ukraine, it's a significant amount of territory, but it is actually less than that. I mean, there could, of course, have been an argument in saying that the population of these countries was, for example, Belarusian speaking or Ukrainian speaking, or well, I don't think it wasn't Lithuanian speaking, the part that was annexed to Lithuania. And yeah, sure, okay, and the Polish minority was the largest, but it was still only 38%. Now, having said that, the Russian-speaking minority was 0.9%, and we know that from the Polish pre-war census figures. So, right, and okay. Jaruzelski broke us that Poland's at war in the mid-1980s, and there are still scars visible of war. So if you look closely, not World War II scars, but scars from the 1980s. Yep. Yeah, I remember that Jaruzelski speech. The ego of tyrants will always be their weakness, says Cleo. Jessica says that Putin will never step down. Yeah, I think that's... I can't imagine Hitler stepping down either. Hitler used to constantly repeat, who could my successor be? Look around, tell me. If you can see somebody, let me know, because I don't know who it could be. Putin, I dare say, is in a similar position. This revolt that happened a month ago by Prigozhin is really, really curious. I mean, I don't know what Prigozhin was thinking of, but it seems as though he was on the phone at the same time as he was driving up, or his mates were driving up the motorway to Moscow. He was on the phone to Putin trying to negotiate something. What he was trying to negotiate, I haven't got a clue. I mean, there have been cases, for example, when there was some general that had gone berserk. For example, in the provisional government in 1918, there was I've forgotten his name. Anyway, I don't think it's come back immediately, so I'll keep going. There was the general who tried to overthrow the provisional government in the summer of July 1918, There have been other similar things where some strong persons come along. I think, and this is my opinion, is that, and this is just based on things I've actually read on the Russian internet. In May, I did a video about a woman whose husband's gone missing, and she found out when they stopped his pay. And when I did the research for that, I was going to follow it up, but what actually happened, I didn't actually do it. But I was reading one of Duma MP, a member of parliament, and what he was saying. And he was saying, oh, well, I am a Prigozhinist, I'm a Wagnerite. And I got the impression there that when he wrote that, and this is what I think I even said this in a live broadcast, I got the impression he was trying to cover both angles at once. What I suspect happened is that Prigozhin had come to some kind of agreement with somebody else or other generals, and these generals didn't then support him. And we have seen that there have been generals or senior officers who've lost their jobs, which I think might have had something to do with it. So what I suspect is that some officer didn't come through with the troops at the moment when they were required, and that is why then Prigozhin had to step down. Although he was negotiating with Putin, possibly at that time hadn't he probably rang round his the leading officers to get to speak and ask them, are you with me or aren't you with me? That is what I suspect. I mean, obviously, I don't know, because I mean, neither of them rang me. Maybe because I was in Germany at the time, I don't know. But anyway, neither of them rang me, so I don't quite know what happened. But that could have overthrown. Prigozhin claims to be loyal and all this. This is highly suspect. People who stand against Putin usually end up dead and getting poisoned or whatever, or getting shot or something. How come he's still around and doing his thing? It makes very, very little sense. How come his army wasn't broken up? How come I mean, I would have expected that the people in the lower ranks, because obviously they had nothing to do with his attempted I'm suggesting it might have been a coup, I don't know, the attempted takeover, why weren't they absorbed into the Russian army? How come they were allowed to leave? And so this shows that Putin is frightened of Prigozhin. And also another thing that we saw was the amount of support. Now, I do appreciate that the people with the guns on the street are going to get the support no matter what. But I didn't hear any Putin supporters out anywhere trying to stop Prigozhin's convoy moving north. No protest, nothing like that. Not even stopped by the police or anything. Nothing. It's just it's really bizarre. And I would also suspect that Prigozhin might have tried to contact the Ukrainians. Of course, he did offer to give information to the Ukrainians, and then the Ukrainians, in my opinion, somewhat foolishly, actually made this public. But that was before the revolt. But I mean, there's plenty of video now come out of Russia where you can actually see that the Russian army actually shooting at Prigozhin's lot, and in the helicopter being brought down being shot at by the Wagner Group. Anyway, right, okay. Colin mentions Hitler's retirement home in Ksons. I don't think that was ever meant to be, but anyway, we'll do that at a different time. Do I think a purge of top Russian army officers is likely? That's a really good question, Sim. I didn't actually see that when I was sort of rambling on right now, but I think that is based on previous experience in other armies. When something like this happens, there's got to be a purge. And the thing is, if there isn't a purge, if there isn't one has to start asking why. Is that Putin now realizes he's boxed himself into such a corner, he's not going to get out, and so is he now thinking? I think he's going to find fewer and fewer friends. So if he doesn't do a purge, I think I think it shows that there a major purge, that is. I mean, obviously there's been one or two have gone, but if he doesn't do a major purge, then I think that shows that he realizes that he can't do it. I think that's a sign of weakness. Yeah. Okay. Right, Colin asked, what do you think about Zelensky's sacking Ukrainian ambassador to the UK for daring to criticise Zelensky's riposte to Ben Wallace? Yeah, I thought that was a bit, I thought it was a bit hard myself. I don't think he should have sacked him. Um, then again, I think it could be this. I mean, it must be, really difficult for him. I mean, he's not like Putin, surrounded by security and living in the lap of luxury and all the rest that he's been, it must be really, really tough for him. He hasn't had a day off in a year and a half. He hasn't, he's doing these really long hours. He's probably getting a bit irritable as well, I would imagine. And so, I think was wrong. I think he should have. Uh, I think he should have handled it a bit way. I mean, it does stand. I know that there are. I think it was Ben Wallace who said that Western armies aren't like Amazon. They can't just deliver on order, and sometimes the Ukrainians are being a bit too demanding. I do appreciate that when life and death situation. Literally a life and death situation. It isn't as though Ukraine can even surrender, because they've talked about things of mass killing of Ukrainians and things of this, and what they call denazification. So it's not a case of losing their country. I mean, we can all lose our countries if we can stay alive. It doesn't matter so much. But in this case, there isn't even that option, given the history of what they've done in the past. So I do appreciate Zelensky being a bit cheesed off, but I can't see what else he could potentially have done in this. I do see what he could have done, but I mean, I can understand why he did it. Uh, um, yeah, yeah. Cleo writes, losing wars isn't fun. A young conscripted army with a madman in charge. Their propaganda is so effective. Some people are accusing Zelensky of showing some of the traits of a dictator. No, I don't. I know there's been these things said, but I don't think so. I mean, he's in a difficult position. What I was hoping he would do, because I did say that every single political career ends in tears. I hope that when this war ends, he resigns. There's an election. He doesn't stand any longer. He could become like a figurehead or something like that. That would be a good thing. Therefore, he will remain a hero if he did that, and they build statues and all the rest. Because if he goes on afterwards, then that is when things will start to go wrong for him. That's a lesson from history. Goes back many, many years. When you're up, resign at the top, and then that's how history will remember you. Even Winston Churchill, he went for a second go in his Winston Churchill's second round as being prime minister. He sort of had to resign. Well, maybe he resigned voluntarily, but all the same, his second period was a period of what? Nobody can say what he did. So it wasn't a good idea. All right, and not many history buffs in the United States. Oh, I don't know. Yeah, the domestic issues in the United States certainly aren't helping matters. I mean, I do hope we don't see somebody in the pay of the Kremlin find his way into the White House. That I very much hope. The United States, I mean, I'm extremely grateful to the United States for the support it's given us. If it hadn't been the United States support in the Second World War, I mightn't be sitting here now, for example. If it hadn't been for the United States backing NATO, I mightn't be sitting here now, and all the rest of it. And so sometimes I think it's a bit, we can't expect the United States to do everything for us. But the thing is, now the United States, as the United Kingdom, two countries which guaranteed Ukraine's territorial integrity in exchange for giving up nuclear weapons in order to make us safer. And Ukraine did that. It's the only country that did that. And now there are people, I appreciate there are these traitors in the United States who would sell out the United States and give Alaska to Putin if he requested it. And I'm sure you know to whom I am referring when I say things like this. So I hope the US stays on board. Cleo predicts in a conflict with the Russian Federation. Yeah, I think it's like hello, David, and Ben Wallace is Pratt. Is Pratt, I think it should be. Yeah, figurehead like Lech Wałęsa. There's a good example. Lech Wałęsa, a hero. Mind you, the thing is in Poland, unfortunately, there is the extreme right in this country, which to a large extent is another one of Putin's tools, and this attacking Wałęsa. But I think that Wałęsa, although it's largely forgotten, I mean, because his period as president wasn't particularly good, and he would say stupid things sometimes. So really daft. Having said that, I think people maybe have now forgotten that. I mean, he ceased to be president 28 years ago. So and yeah, David says they never want to give up power. Do I think that Putin has eyes on Poland? No, not in the country. Now you wouldn't dare. If he attacked Poland, it's NATO. That's the thing. Had Poland not been in NATO and the European Union, then it might. Of course, the European Union isn't a defensive alliance; it's just an economic organization. But if he now, there's no chance. Putin would love to attack Poland, but he's not going to get the chance. Apart from that, the border. Okay, I suppose they would use Belarus as they used against Ukraine. But the Russian-Polish border isn't a particularly long one anyway. Ben Wallace was an officer in the British Army. I think calling him a Pratt is unjustified. Yeah, he was an officer. Yeah. Stephen Kotkin about Russia is a great. Yeah, Stephen Kotkin is really good. He shows really good analysis, and another thing amazes me about Stephen Kotkin, he's got this ability to actually remember things as he's actually talking. Because, for example, I can sit here talking, right, I'll do a live broker. Then I maybe I should make notes and then I keep my train of thought. But I'm sort of reading the comment and then I forget what I want to say. So, but I noticed that Stephen Kotkin is got a brilliant memory for speaking without off the top of his head. Selman, am I concerned about the UK's falling army numbers? Selman, they've been saying that for the last 40 years that I can remember. It doesn't bother me. I think I can understand that people maybe don't want to go into the army these days and all the rest of it, but I thought it was quite good myself. But thing is, at my age now, I sort of remember all the good things and all the good laughs and all the rest, and I forget all the bad things. So maybe that's part of it. Hello for Los Angeles, and Christopher says he was asleep and he missed it. Okay, right. So I think I'll do another one tomorrow because I'll do something. I've got a vague idea what I wanted to talk about. Actually, I want to talk about the hunger plan of the Nazis, the German Nazis and the Russian Nazis, the new Nazis. So I was sort of going to do that this evening, but I thought, hey, this Polish thing is really more relevant, particularly as I am now in Poland. So thanks very much for watching, and I would like to do a live after doing a video on the Friday night, but as I've already talked several times about the results of what happened during the 1944 20th of July attempted coup against Hitler in the past, so I won't. That was the reason I won't be doing that. But I think I can do one or two things related to the war. Stay safe. Thank you, Cleo, and thanks to this. Oh, Toronto. Yes. Hello, Danny. And thanks, Selma. So thank you very much. Thanks everybody for watching. There's me in my vehicle in Gdansk, Poland, in the rain. It's going to rain for the next week, having been roasting for about 6 weeks, and it was too hot. Now it's look, I've even got my long trousers on. See, so it's that cold. Okay, thanks for watching. So thanks, Jessica. That's really nice to see that. Thank you. Thunderstorm at Toronto. Good night, all from France. No, Romania. Sorry, my eyesight. And thanks, Colin. Thanks, Cleo. Thank you. Okay, all the best. Bye. Thank you.